planning to run a conference or large event, then sponsorship revenues are one of the best ways to finance it and also make profit. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to ask for sponsorship money to fund your event. So in this video, what I'm going to get into is how to prepare to create a sponsorship offering, and also how to create a deck that showcases what your offerings are, and also how to present that deck to a client to encourage them to enroll in giving you money to support your event. I'm also going to share a little bit about how to get agreement and get paid for your event. So before I get into all the different ways that you can ask for sponsorship money, I first want to share just a little bit about my background and why I'm someone that you might want to listen to when it comes to this topic. So about 10 years ago, in 2010 to be exact, I started something called the Women's Success Summit. I had a vision of a large event gathering women for empowerment, and that we would have speakers and food and exhibitors and shopping and all sorts of cool things. Now, of course, as soon as I had that vision, I had to think about, well, how am I going to pay for that? Luckily, I came from a background, I had been working in the magazine industry, and I remembered that whenever we wanted to host a party for the magazine, we would just call up an advertiser and ask them to give us some money in order to be the title sponsor of the magazine party. And that seemed to work out pretty well. And in fact, I was responsible for getting sponsorship dollars from Heineken, Mercedes-Benz, Johnny Walker Black Label. All sorts of companies were eager to throw money at us because they knew that it would get them in front of their ideal audience. So now let's talk about how to get your sponsorship. And the first thing we're going to address is how to prepare and how to do your homework. Step one is you've got to do your homework. You've got to understand what the audience is that you're going to be bringing together. And by the way, I have some news for you. If this is your first time doing an event, this is not going to be so easy. It's going to take something for you to get started. You might have to start with making some assumptions. So for example, if you don't have a track record running this event that you're going to do, you're going to have to share with your sponsors how you plan to get their demographic into your event. So you want to think about things like, is your audience going to be predominantly female, predominantly male, a mix of both? Are they going to have a certain level of education and or income? So these are called demographics. Other things you'll want to know are the psychographics of your audience. So instead of just things like where are they from, how much money do they make, things like what are their belief systems, what kind of media do they consume. So when you have a good idea of both the demographics and the psychographics of your audience, a couple things happen. Number one, you know how to go find them and how to bring them into your event, or ostensibly at least you have some idea how to do that. And number two, you can identify the sponsors that align with that audience and that would be most eager to connect with them. So here's an example. When I was doing the magazine events, I knew that Mercedes-Benz would be interested in our golf tournament because I knew that we would have very wealthy, mostly men, playing golf, and we would have a couple of celebrities there. Brands like Mercedes-Benz love to rub elbows with celebrities because they know that theirs is an aspirational brand. And they also know that they only need to sell one car, or maybe two cars, to make up for their investment in our event. Let's talk about a sponsorship deck. So a sponsorship deck is just the name that we use to describe the brochure or the information package that describes and lays out everything that's in your sponsorship opportunities. Normally, a sponsorship deck includes things such as the audience demographic, the audience psychographic, testimonials or case studies from past sponsors. It often includes pictures of the event that showcase how sponsors are integrated into the event experience. Essentially, your sponsorship deck shows everything that a prospective sponsor might want to see or know in order to make a decision. And here's the thing, the more data you have, the better. I discovered this because my first few Women's Success Summits, I just told them, this is our audience, this is who we bring, here's some pictures, here's some examples of past sponsorships. But by the third or fourth event, I got wise because I kept getting questions about data. My sponsors kept asking, how many women? What's their median income? What kind of car do they drive? Ding, ding, ding. So I got smart and I created a survey for the end of my event, And I got that information, and then I was able to use that data for my next sponsorship deck. In addition to those types of demographic and psychographic pieces of information, what you'll want to do in your deck is lay out the sponsorship opportunities. Now, here are just a few things that you might want to include in there. Most events have a title sponsor. Think about all the times that you've seen the NASDAQ tennis tournaments or the AT&T soccer event. I don't know actually if AT&T sponsors soccer, but you get the idea. You might want to have a title sponsor, like having a certain bank or a credit card company or a car company lead the sponsorship and have the most name recognition. That means that what makes a title sponsorship so valuable is that the name is integrated into the name of the event. So it could have been, for example, the Mercedes-Benz Women's Success Summit. Now, you don't want to sell that too cheap. If you're giving away naming rights in your event, you'll want to have a hefty price point associated with that. Just to give you an idea, when we used to sell title sponsorships at the magazine with events of 1,000 or 1,500 people, we would charge at least $100,000 for a sponsorship like that. Now, actually, I never had a title sponsor in my Women's Success Summit. I didn't actually want to sell those rights, or I didn't want to sell them too cheap. My standard for that was really high, and nobody ever met me there. And of course, also, you want to make sure that your sponsors are aligned with your values and your mission and your message. Probably wouldn't make sense to have, Jägermeister sponsoring a women's empowerment event. I don't know, what do you think? Other things that you can sell a name tag sponsor. Remember, if everybody's wearing a name tag at your event, you're gonna see the name that's on that name tag everywhere you look. So that's a pretty awesome sponsorship. Another thing is a lunch sponsor or a cocktail party sponsor or a breakfast sponsor. When we did the golf tournament, we had tea sponsors at every single hole. And of course, the most expensive tea sponsors were the first hole and the 18th hole. Some of the things you'll want to include in sponsorship packages are: how much signage does the sponsor get? How many tickets do they get with the event? How much display do they have? How much exhibition space do they have to connect with the audience? Will they get promoted ahead of the event? Will you send out a solo email talking about their company? These are all things that are up for grabs in a sponsorship package. Step 3 is to get a meeting. Over and over again, I would get asked, "Oh, I'm interested in your event, send me a sponsorship deck." And over again, I would never hear back from people. Do whatever you need to do to get the meeting, because it's in the meeting that the deals get made. I can tell you that it was very rare for someone to book a sponsorship, especially a high ticket one, by email. We want to either get a phone call or a live in-person meeting. In that meeting, what you'll want to do is get them excited about the vision of the event and start to paint the picture of what it would look like for them to be involved in the event. And I highly recommend creating something custom for them that engages them. So for example, when Car2Go came into Miami for the first time, Car2Go is a car sharing service. They were brand new and nobody knew who they were. Now, of course, my sponsorship deck said that, with the platinum level package, they would have signage and they would even be able to display cars, but that didn't really appeal to them. They really wanted a way to actually get people to register for the Car2Go service. So in the meeting, we brainstormed ideas and we came up with a great strategy. I had a speaker, Dave Lorenzo, who was speaking, and he had donated 200 hardcover signed copies of his book. So we told Car2Go, here's what we'll do. We'll tell everyone in the audience after Dave speaks, and by the way, Dave is an amazing speaker, that as soon as he's done speaking, we have only 200 copies of his book signed in the back of the room. If they want one of those copies, all they have to do is register for Car2Go and then bring the receipt, the proof that they registered, over to the other table to pick up their book. We had huge adoption of Car2Go at that event. Their goal was 50 people registered. Obviously, they got 200. Once you have conceptual agreement for how you're going to help your client, your sponsor, achieve its goals at your event, then you need to gain agreement. And this is really important, and this is where a lot of deals end up going south. It's my advice to strike while the iron is hot. The sooner you can get that agreement signed, the better. Even more importantly, the sooner you can get a deposit, even better. And so what I recommend doing is to have 2 versions of your offer. One is a version if they pay in full all at once up front, and the other is if they pay a deposit and then a balance before the event. Never, ever, ever allow a sponsor to pay the balance after the event. I find that you end up chasing down money. You want to collect all of your revenues before the event. Remember, you are the one taking on all the risk. You're the one paying for the venue. You're the one doing all the work. And so the client, the sponsor, gets to sit back, relax, and get the benefit of all that work. And all they have to do is pay you. If you're asking about event sponsorships, then let me invite you to consider other revenue streams that might even be more easy, more energy rich than sponsorship. Quite honestly, I did sponsorship for years, and in 2016, I decided to stop. I found that it was really wearing on me, that it was a lot of work to focus both on delivering an amazing experience to clients and to sponsors. So I'm not trying to actively discourage you if you absolutely know that you want to get sponsorships, but I am trying to tell you that there are other ways, I think better ways, to make money from your events. So I invite you to check out my How to Make Money from Events playlist, which you can link to up above or down in the notes.